Hey everyone, welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a good day. So today we're here to paint some Gaslands terrain because I need it for the upcoming video. I've got a couple of pieces currently sort of drying from being sprayed, so they should be good to go once I've finished up here. And we're just gonna do this little piece. So fun fact, this was a bit of not a printing error, but a process in the printer where we had I'd started the print in one color and it ended in the other, and I actually think it's like got a cool effect. So we're just gonna add some stuff to this, but I'm gonna keep the mystique of this particular screw up. So let's start with these barrels, shall we? Let's see. But yeah, so new stuff happening on the stream. Cool, my microphone's working. Let's take that as a win. So the new stuff that's going to be happening on the stream, not the stream, sorry, the channel. So sorry. Sorry, I got a bit of a crick in my throat, guys. Excuse me. Yeah, the stuff that's going to be happening on the channel is that I've done another war stories, and I've done scripting for the Gaslands episode. I've got some fun little ideas for it. And we're just going to, sort of travel on from there. Now, just for the record, what I'm doing here right now is generally frowned upon in the in the painting community. You really want to prime things first. And 99.99999% of the time, they are absolutely correct. You do not want to just paint directly onto the plastic. But in this particular scenario, that I want to keep the color effect. So we're going to paint directly onto the plastic without priming. You just do whatever works, really. Might need to do a couple layers of this. And that's alright. More than likely by the time I've finished the last barrel, the first barrel will be ready to get painted again. Think I might do like a cool little decal sort of bit up here, like, draw like an arrow or something. I don't know. I'll just see what takes me, guys. That's how I paint Gaslands. I just see how the mood strikes me. You just get in there and you just paint. That's one thing I actually really like about Gaslands is, for some reason, I just feel the pressure's just off for some reason. It's just like, if something doesn't go right, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just fix it up later. You don't like the way something looks? Bam, just fix it. I also think one of the best things about Gaslands is that if you paint like crap, when you just do a wash and then you're like, oh, that's alright. It looks like a crappy post-apocalyptic wasteland thing. And you just sort of get away with like just little mistakes that you normally can't do on a mini. Also, the other thing is, this is a piece of terrain, right? Like, this doesn't have to be amazing. This doesn't have to be an amazing piece of masterwork art piece either. You just have to get the piece of terrain looking good, and that's it. Because most people aren't going to sit there and look at your terrain. Sorry, people who paint really cool terrain. You'll get a comment or two every once in a while, like, oh man, that piece of terrain is awesome, you'll hear. But at the end of the day, you're just not going to get anything. Oh, the channel news, yes. So, as I said, I sort of did the quick update, but So I've got my first retro review planned, which will be the Pirates card game. I actually have some big news as well. I got invited onto a podcast called Paint All the Minis, hosted by Dan Adams. A very cool podcast if you want to check it out. And so my episode is about something I already covered: Games Workshop's prices, basically. And we just have a chat about that, and he's, you know what, I'll keep that particular one under my hat for the time being. But my first appearance should be on the 5th of April. So, sorry, the 4th of April, my apologies. It might be the 5th here, actually. Actually, no, it shouldn't be. It should be the 4th, yeah. So, good little present for my birthday month, hey guys? So as you can see, I've just sort of painted the barrel silver, so that's fine. Do I paint the ramp? I kind of like I like that green and grey effect. I might paint like arrows or something onto it. I'm trying to think, do I do sort of like speed arrows? Do I do like a boost pad from like Mario Kart or something like that? Or do I draw like, do I paint like a skull head or something along the lines of that, even though I'm not that good at that sort of stuff? That is a good question. Definitely want to do something with it. But I think I might want to stencil it on rather than draw it by hand. What I might do is I might get Lady Vamps to print me something on the Cricut and just stick the decals on. Yeah, I think I'll do that, which means I will have to eventually go back and brown over it, like brown ink over it, but that's alright. Alright, well, what's next then? Well, I think what I'm going to do is we're going to get some of this, a bit of this flesh tone. And we're going to do the sort of top area. And then I want to do the bottom area with my sort of more grotty brown colour. Not that I have much of this left now. I've got a bit of a prop for the video that's coming up for the Gaslands review. And I used a whole bunch of brown ink on that. So let's just brown ink this bottom bit up here. My brown ink from Reaper, which is, it's just like a really nice thick brown ink, basically. I'm just gonna get the sort of bottom area. I'll do the barrels too, but I'm gonna let them dry a bit more first. Just gonna lovingly get that crappy sort of brown look on the bottom. Okay, cool. So see, I want like a really sort of dark brown color along the bottom, just so it looks like, you know, it's been sitting out in the weather, the rain, that kind of stuff. But the bottom part is particularly bad, you know. And then I'm just going to get this other brown, this lighter brown, this flesh tone, and we're just going to sort of take it across the top here, just because the idea that this part, while it is out in the elements still, it's not as sort of, it's not as close to the ground, it's not as grungy, you know. I might actually get a bigger brush. So just a little bit. And across we go. Don't worry if it sort of ends up not being amazing. Maybe even want to give it a dab. The idea is we want to make it look dirty. We don't want to really... don't want to go too nuts. Don't get too overworked with, you know... See, like that. That's looking half decent. There we go. Yeah, you don't need to get too crazy. You know, just take your time. If you think you're overdoing it in a section, you know, that's fine. Just, you know, don't go quite crazy. As crazy. See, I think, but what I do is I just get the tissue and we just dab it. And just dab it a little bit. And now we've got a little bit more of a... bit more character there. Remember, with washes, you can also cover a surprising amount of distance with the washes. So I'm just using flesh tone for my sort of like the just the regular dirt layer. When you want really grimy stuff, you want a slightly thicker, darker brown wash, which is why I've got this brown ink as well. Oh, I'm also gonna do a. So I had a fan contact me, viewer, we'll say. I had a viewer contact me on Instagram, and they sent me a message, and it was like, where do I start? I want to get into wargaming. Where do I start? And I thought, hey, that would make an interesting video, right? So I think I'm going to do that video. It's funny, you know, you get asked a question like that, and you go, oh, I could make a video on that. Sometimes the ideas just come up with themselves, guys. You don't have to go too crazy. So, on that particular one, I think I will do the video. If the viewer, if the guy is watching, my advice is start with skirmish games, which we'll go through. I'll go through in the video at some point. But yeah, I thought to start with skirmish games. They're nice and cheap. You don't really need to go too nuts with you know, worrying about everything. And I'd also suggest skirmish games where either it's miniature agnostic or the rules are free, because that means you'll get a general idea on if you like wargaming. I used to never like skirmish games, actually. Fun fact. But you know, I was wrong. The reason why I didn't like skirmish games is because I like big groups of guys fighting each other. But, you know, you get to the point where you're like, actually, skirmish games are really good because you don't have to have giant piles of miniatures around. I'm going to go for a bit of a thicker coat of this lighter one. Like that. I don't know if we sort of like just bring these two colors here together along the bottom, just to sort of get a bit of an a sort of ombre effect of the two darker colors down the bottom here. So yeah, okay. The blue tack is losing a bit of structural integrity there. Hey, I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out so far. Let's have a look at these barrels again. So let me think. So I think what we'll do here is I'll get my small brush again. And we're going to hit these barrels with like a bit of a warning sign. The question is, do I do it red or do I do it yellow? I'm trying to think, like, you know, like, you gotta, with a lot of this stuff, the best way to sort of come up with what you're doing is to visualize it and go, is this what I want? So I'm trying to think if I want red or yellow. I'm thinking red could possibly end up standing out more because of the green, but then yellow would also be kind of complementary as well. I think we'll go with red. And I'm not going anything too fancy here. I'm just going to get out a sort of mid-range red. I'm just going to draw some red dots onto the middle of these barrels. Actually, I might try and do like a diamond pattern. Actually, I think I just changed my mind slightly. See, like the inspiration just takes you. I accidentally drew like an almost flame-looking symbol. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna draw little flames on them. Whether or not this works, that is the question. So see, I'm just doing little kind of little weird sort of circle kind of shapes. I'm not really being overly careful. I'm just because I'm decided that this is the direction we're gonna go in. So we don't need to go too crazy. We're just drawing them on the barrels. And then once again, like, don't get too hung up on making perfect wargaming terrain. Most people aren't gonna really pay that much attention to it. I mean, I'm not saying that people aren't gonna be like, wow, that looks good or that looks bad or whatever. But for the most part, you know, they're there to play a war game. They're not there to really look at the terrain. And that one ended up looking more like a diamond. Well, I'll give it a bit. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna get some orange out, and we're gonna finish it off with this yellow, I think. Okie dokie. Bit of the old two thin coats, one of my favourite paint brands. Gonna add just a touch of water to that. Yeah, that's good. Thin it a little bit. Get it a bit on the thin side, guys. And I'm just gonna sort of fill that little area there, just with a bit of orange. Still want to leave some of that red in. Yep. I'm sort of going to give it a bit of a point. Just a bit. Just a tiny point going up. Okie dokie, nice, 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 nice. And then we've got the yellow here. Come on, out you come. Don't be stubborn. Sometimes paint pots just, you know, like sometimes droppers and pots and stuff like that just won't particularly like coming out. Where is my, where did I put that? Of course, I happened to misplace it, didn't I? I generally keep a paperclip around my desk for this very particular thing, but it seems like it's gone for a bit of a walk. And I don't have any more paper clips up here. Note to self, always pack paper clips. That's alright. Okay. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll go for a little bit of a brighter coloured flame. Actually what I could do is I could probably take this. That's why I have more than one variety of paint. Sometimes these things happen with dropper bottles, you know, you can't really do much about it. You just gotta move forward. Need a little bit more. There we go. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Now it's time to grunge these things up a little bit. Seems like the ball has probably gotten in the way on that one, I think. That'll do. Okay, we're just going to do the tops and bottoms of this barrel. So these barrels sort of a bit haphazardly. Like I'm not trying to really. I'm not trying to do this nicely. The idea is that I want to make it look like we've got some rusty barrel tops at the top here. And at the bottom. So don't worry if it... So I'm just kind of like pulling down. That's the idea. Just pull down. Pull down, pull down, pull down. And do some more pulling. And we end up with some nice little rusty barrel tops. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it the opposite way. So I'm going to turn this model upside down. And I'm just going to pull from the bottom up. not getting much of a good angle there. Sorry guys, I'm still getting used to sort of painting on weird angles. Okay. And if you can focus camera, that would be nice, thank you. So, you can see we got some nice, rusty looking junky barrels now. And then I'm just going to get out some bit of the green wash. And I'm just going to sort of hit this rust with a bit of the green wash. Not much, just sort of, yeah. Ooh, just over the top, over the top. And sort of, as I said, I'm not really, you know, we're not being super duper ultra careful here. We're just hitting it. And same with this, just along the bottom, Get that sort of green rusty effect. And then once that's done, I'm just going to hit the whole entire thing with some brown wash. Now I'm not going to bother brown washing the bottom. I'm not going to bother brown washing the bottom. Sorry, I'm not going to bother brown inking the bottom, because once we wash it with that rust effect, it's going to just end up looking like a, it's going to end up just looking like a rusty pile of shit down the bottom anyway. Alright, now I'm going to get a slightly lighter metal colour. Why the hell am I doing that? Well, I'm not planning to really highlight the barrels. I'll fully tell you that. But what we're going to do is I'm going to go around, I'm going to just put some edge highlightings on different areas, so it looks like that this has been painted this green colour, and then it's just going to chip off. I'm just going to sort of a bit haphazardly just silver some of this area, so it just looks like, yeah, we'll just chipped a bit off here, and you know, just let it happen, guys. Just let the paint happen. It doesn't need to look perfect. That's the thing. It doesn't need to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We'll do this back one as well, but I'll do this one a little bit different. So we'll come across, yeah, and then maybe a bit here, and then a bit there. And then maybe I'll have it so that it looks like, so if we go sort of like a big sort of area out here, so that it looks like it's been sort of scraped off. That one though, we will end up sort of rusting up a bit. And then I'll do like another couple, just sort of like, just a little bit. Just chipping, I'm just going to look like it's so chipping away here. Chipping, chip. And then when I come back and I do like the little decals, I'll just sort of apply some of this sort of chip look. These are... Let's get this. Oh, sorry guys, I punched you. I punched your ears. And there we go. A ramp. So I think I'm actually I'm happy with how that's turned out. Not too bad considering it's mainly unpainted. But I think that'll make a nice little set piece for my sort of area. I wonder if my other pieces have finished drying yet. Yeah, guys, how long have I been live for? Half an hour. Well, let's go grab them and I'll see. Ooh. Just pop this over here to dry. Alright, I'll be right back. 2 seconds. Yes, they're dry. They're dry, guys. So I got a little shack here. Oh, little metal shack. And we've got this particular piece, which I know at the moment looks a lot like Lego, and that's because it kind of is. It's not actually Lego. It's one of the cheap knockoff Lego brands, but it's like a little mini juice bar. And so I thought it could be fun to basically sort of paint these up. I'll just show you what this particular thing will look like once it's done. I didn't paint everything. I didn't spray everything. I've left a couple of things intact that I'm going to sort of do as I go. But I just thought, yeah, no, they're these little cool buildings, and I reckon once they get painted, you know, they won't exactly blend, but I personally feel that they'll look cool. Oh no, there it is. I was about to say I'm missing a piece, the biggest piece on the thing, but no, I'm not. So, and then I'm going to paint all of it to make it look a little bit more, you know, Gaslands, diesel punk, post-apocalyptic, whatever you wish to call it. And that's the idea, is that I wanted to make I thought these would make really cool buildings. I've got another one over there that I'm going to use as my team's HQ. But all these bits will be painted separately. I'm not going to paint the see-through parts at all, full stop, because I just think it'll be cool to leave there. Oh, I mean, when I say that, I will like give them a dirt coat, but for the most part, they will be staying. They'll be staying as is, because I just think it'll be cool that way. And in hindsight, what I realized I should have done is I should have left the the stickering until after I'd finished painting. But, you know, live and learn. The next set of miniatures the next set of ones I get on this, I'll do them properly. Anyway, let's start with the shack, I think. So the shack is mostly metal with a wooden roof. So let's pop this over here. Did that? Oh, no, I seem to... Ah, there we go. I was about to say, I seem to have misplaced my blue tack. And here we go. So we got this nice little metal shack. Ugh, the spray paint didn't go quite all in the crevices, but that's alright. We'll deal with it. Alright, so first things first, I'm gonna get some metal on. I'm just gonna get a nice, decent brush. And we'll just get all the metal going. once again, I'm not going to really sort of go too nuts on the sort of paint on these particular ones. We'll yeah, but we'll get a good idea going. Probably do the middle of the tire metal, but with that, yep. What's this? Trying to figure out if this is... I think that's brick, so we'll leave that for orange. Oh, red, orange. Whatever color brick I decide to do. I could do cinder block, actually, because it looks kind of like a cinder block, so I could do grey. I think, though, just to sort of have it pop a bit more, I'm going to do it as like a sort of red brick. You know, there's nothing wrong with, even though we're just sort of slapping the terrain together, guys, there's nothing wrong with, you know, doing a bit of flair. I think that might actually be wood. That up a bit. That's alright. I'll just come back and I'll paint it wood color. And then I see we've got some sheet metal here, which I'm gonna like really like. I'm gonna go for a really rusty piece of shit with the sheet metal. Yeah, that's definitely a piece of wood up there. That's alright. That's also a bit of wood. That's sheet metal, that's wood. Alright, cool. Good. Good to know, brain. Oh. Tell you what, guys, sometimes things just get away from you, don't they? I was actually hoping to have all the footage done by the end of the weekend for my for the Gaslands review, but it just ended up it did not pan out on any level. I've still got some work to do on a surprise in the Gaslands review. That's got a little bit too frisky there. Yeah, I've still got some stuff to work on in that video. The script is mostly done, but I need to just finish it up. But you know, like work and life happen, guys. I was planning to do it yesterday, but I ended up, a client called me and it was like an emergency, and I was like, oh well, shit. That's life though, isn't it, really? What's the old saying? Tell God your plan and he'll laugh at you. Sort of how it feels. Okay, so I think we've got all the metal on this particular one done. Oh, actually, there's a bit of sheet metal on the top here. Or is it, if you want to make God laugh, you tell him your plans? That might be it, actually. Okay, so we've done metal. The metal is finished. Now I'm trying to think of how I want to do the wood. to go for like a really dark wood, or do I want to go for a light wood that's going to look more weathered? Like, because if I go for a more, say, light wood colored, I can sort of like, I can hit it with some real dark tones, and it should end up looking pretty cool. Decisions. I think when I see this shack, its wood is quite dark, but it's also woody. So we'll go for this wood color, I think. The barrels are fine, and then I got my brick, which I'm going to go with this sort of. I'm going to start with Mephiston, I think, but we'll deal with that when we get there. Let's get the wood done first. One of my Reaper paints needs a proper clean out, sadly. Okay. Hey. Getting used to this painting for the camera is certainly doing my head in, that's for sure. Currently, though, the stream, it's a good excuse to paint. Not that I really currently need one at the moment. Actually, I am painting like a fiend lately. I'm still going to keep doing it, though. I think it, because I want it to be that, if I don't get time to paint stuff. Particularly because, like, this terrain I really want for the upcoming video. And I've done all the cars I need. There is still more cars to do, but I've done the cars I need. And I just need to finish off. Kid Vamps and I are playing a campaign. And so the campaign is just to test out the campaign rules. Because generally I find that I tend not to play campaigns in the war games I play. But I was talking to Lady Vamps and I'm like, do you think in order to get a proper, like, sort of go of the rules that I'll need to play campaigns? And she was like, absolutely. I think that's a necessary step. And I was like, okay, fair enough. And so we're playing a campaign. It's just a small Savage Empires campaign, Savage Highway campaign, but it's like, oh, I still think that's a good idea. And that's pretty much where I'm at the moment. We're getting through that. We're up to the second mission of 3. It's a smaller campaign, but it'll give us an idea on how scenarios and campaigns work and all that stuff. We've played quite a few different scenarios, so that shouldn't be a problem. We've done a couple of death races. We've done a sort of capture the supplies. We've done an escape. So I think I have a pretty good idea on how the game is going to play. So that's not a big deal, basically, which is good. I am, however, gonna. I think because Lady Vamp says she'll play with me, which is great. That's always a positive. But I'm actually trying to find another wargamer to play the games with as well. Just because I want a general idea on how they're sort of going to feel. I'm not sure who, how, where, or why I'm going to find another person. Because the other thing is, it's not just a case of, like, you know, going down to my local game store and playing a few games with someone, which I could do, just for the record. That wouldn't be a problem. But what I'm looking for is not exactly a co-host, but someone who I can sort of go, well, you know, you played X number of war games. How do you feel about this? Get a second opinion of a wargamer who sort of has actually sort of played before. Ooh. Because right now, and don't get me wrong, Kid Vamps is great. He's getting better every day. But I find that he will tend to have the same opinions as me because I have them, and that's not a problem. You know, that's kids. They wanna be close to their parents, right? But I also want someone who's willing to go, well, I didn't actually really like this. Because sometimes what'll happen is he'll go, oh, yeah, no, I absolutely loved this game. And I'll be like, yeah, it was pretty good. I wasn't a big fan of this particular thing. And then suddenly he'll go, oh, yeah, no, either was I. And it's like, did me pointing him out have him realize that? Or is he just saying, I agree with Dad because he just wants to agree with Dad? So I'd like to get sort of a more experienced wargamer to sort of come in and play the games to me. And I'd like to have someone who I can rely on sort of on a consistent level. Not necessarily that they have to come over every week and play wargames with me. That would be nice. That would be very nice. But just someone who I can go, okay, well, what do you think about this now that you've played a few games of it? Oh, well, you know, I thought that it was, you know, I thought the combat was more balanced. I didn't enjoy it as much as, you know, Warhammer or whatever happens to be going on. And I go, okay, great. Excellent. I have now been informed by you. Thank you. And that's pretty much what I would like to sort of have done. It's just someone to sort of come in and play the games and sort of get opinions on all that kind of crap. But I haven't really found anyone, which is fine. You know, these things happen. But I'm on the lookout. I've got some ideas on who I might want to ask. But whether or not they'll actually agree to it, that's the other thing. Also, they don't need to make an appearance on anything. Right? I don't expect them to come out and go, oh yeah, on the video. I just need to sort of get someone who I can, you know, collect footage with and all that kind of crap. And I'm also going to do this little part red here because I just think it's going to look cool. But it's going to end up a slightly different color of red. Okay. Sorry, guys. I know I'm holding the miniature. You can't see anything. I know. Sorry. See, so we got that red, and then we got some bricks coming up over here. There we go, and we got a brick on top. Nice. Actually, just want to sort of... Well, yes. Okay, let's have a look here. I might do a bit of red here, just as, once again, just to sort of get a bit of a pop going. Even though I know that people probably aren't really going to give a shit about what the terrain looks like overall, you know, I want it to look half decent. Yeah. Okay, cool. I reckon what I might do is I might do this stuff here at the front as sort of like that bluish sort of colorbond steel. If people have seen that before. Now, if I remember correctly, that sort of bluish colorbond steel sort of has like it's still got a metal look to it. So gonna break out the blue speed paint. I'm just gonna paint this particular section blue. Because yeah, I want the metal to still sort of come through. So as you can see, we got that. Once that dries, it'll end up looking fine. Okay. There we go. I like that. That's gonna look nice. Alright, now it's time to do the sort of rusty sheet metal sections. So I'm going to get out some of this wall lock bronze, which is a Games Workshop one. And it's in a pot still. I haven't had time to transfer them over into the other stuff. This is the tin bits replacement. I actually prefer tin bits, but you know, what do you do? Not that wall lock bronze looks bad or anything like that. Sorry guys, I kind of got to pick this up because now that we're into the sort of rusty, shitty sheet metal section, I've got to actually be careful how I paint these. Okay, nice. That's not looking too bad. Gotta have that bit of extra concentration, guys. Sorry I've gone silent. I know. What if I give you a preview of not the next war story, but the war story after that, War Story 3. War Story 3, The Return of Larry. Yes, I know. If you've watched the videos, you may know who the hell Larry is. So, Larry. If you're not aware, Larry was this guy who played alternate war games, mostly MechWarrior Pirates and the Star Wars miniature game. Later on, he played the World of Warcraft car game, and he also played Magic occasionally, but most people wouldn't play him in Magic because he was a known point cheat in MechWarrior. Not that anyone ever called him out on it. If you're wondering, Vamps, why wouldn't you call him out on it? Well, at the time, I was like 13, 14. Closer to 13, definitely. And he was 30. So I just didn't have the gumption to call a cheat out. Not someone who was over double my age at the time. So, this is a story about possibly Larry's biggest temper tantrum and meltdown. Yes, I know, you might be thinking, oh, I mean, the last one was pretty bad. He screamed in your face. Can it get much worse than that? Well, sort of. So basically, it's probably about 2 years later, roughly. No, it'd be about a year later. A year since Larry has had his screaming match and has now been avoiding playing games with me. So I've gotten into Warhammer now. I'm balls deep in Warhammer 40k. And I was just starting to discover Warhammer Fantasy at this time period. Not much. I'd seen some Warhammer Fantasy and I thought, hey, that looks pretty cool. But overall, I'd not really played Warhammer Fantasy yet. Not that has anything to do with the story. So I'm taking a break from a game of Warhammer. I've just finished and I'm looking for another game, but I'm not sure if I'm going to find one anytime soon. Everyone has just recently started games, and some of them were really big. We had two guys who only ever played at 4,000 points, so they only ever really played with themselves, and everyone else had just recently started a game. My opponent didn't really want to play with me again, and that's fair enough. You know, once you sort of play with someone enough, you don't necessarily want to keep playing with them. And to be honest, I mirrored his sort of expectations on that particular one. I was like, yeah, I don't really want to play with you again. I just finished kicking his ass twice in a row because there's no one else to play with. And so I go over to my dad, who's doing MechWarrior at the time, and he's recently finished a game. And I say to him, can I get a drink? And I'm just gonna wait for another game. And he says, do you want to play a game of MechWarrior with me? And I was like, not particularly. At this point, I'd left MechWarrior behind. For the most part. Actually, in fact, I think at this point I had actually left MechWarrior behind. And so, what ends up happening is it's about 7. So the club's been running for about 3 or 4 hours at this point. And Larry and Greg show up late. Which Larry blames on Greg's car. Fair enough. So, Greg's like, alright, who wants a game of... sorry, not Greg. Larry's like, who wants a game of MechWarrior? But just like Warhammer, everyone was busy, except for my dad. And Greg was like, well, you know, I'm free. And Larry's like, no, I don't want to play you, dude. We play enough outside the club. I don't want to play you at the club. Well, it was pretty much where he was at, which I do not blame Larry for in this particular scenario. that is a completely fair thing to really say. If you play someone a lot outside the club, you don't want to really play them a ton in the club, because then why the hell do you go to the club? I had the same thing. My DM also was at the club, and unless we were playing Dungeons and Dragons with a different group, we generally didn't really play wargaming together, because we got plenty of wargaming together outside of that. We played Lord of the Rings, because it was Lord of the Rings at the time, and we played sorry, 2 seconds, I'm just looking for my flesh tone. Yeah, we played Warhammer, and he was starting to get me into Warhammer Fantasy as well, which he was letting me use his undead army as sort of like a buffer. And he had 2 other armies. He had Chaos, which he never actually used, and he had like a high elf, a small high elf army. He never wanted anyone to really use the Chaos, so I never really got to properly sort of have a go at the Chaos, and that was fine. I eventually cut my teeth on Chaos, which will be in the war story that will be coming out sometime this week. But that's not important. So Larry goes, I'd like to have a game, and my dad goes, well, I'll play with you, Larry. And Larry goes, you'll play with me. And he's like, yeah. And so Larry's like, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna call my dad Paul. Hey, Paul, sure. Let's play. If you're wondering why Larry was such a colossal dick in this particular scenario, it basically boils down to this. My dad was not very good at wargaming. He just wasn't. He was very good at chess, but nothing ever really transferred over. He was not a good wargamer by any stretch of the imagination. He wasn't too bad in something like Pirates or anything like that, but he was very bad at Warhammer. And he was bad at MechWarrior, but not because he was overly bad at the game, but because he picked the worst strategy you can possibly pick in MechWarrior. And that is, he used artillery. Now, in the MechWarrior game, artillery on paper looks really good. You basically, artillery have the longest range in the game, because in the MechWarrior game, if you have an 18-inch gun in that game, you have got a good gun. 24 is ludicrous, and there were a few mechs that had 24-inch range guns, and they were like, oh yeah, gotta get me these 24-inch range guns. So artillery, on the other hand, they had a minimum range, which is generally 12. But it could go up to 72, which means pretty much you could hit the whole entire field. And what you'd do is, when you shot your artillery, on the turn you shot them, you'd put these tokens down. And these tokens would then have sort of like a scatter effect. So you shot them one turn, and then the start of the next round, they would hit. Now, as I said, on paper this sounds really good, but in practice, generally artillery missed most of the time. So what sort of ended up happening was no one really used them because they were difficult to use, to say the least. And the other thing was it was very, 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 very hard to hit mechs, because mechs had a special ability where they could choose to activate more times than other units at the cost of taking heat damage. And eventually the mech would shut down. So you still didn't just want to run your mech like crazy, but you could take an extra action, move your mech well and truly into a blind spot of the artillery. Because these little tokens, what they had as part of the artillery is that it'd be like a circle, and then they'd be separated into quadrants, and they'd have a number on them. And you rolled 2 dice. One was what direction it was heading in based on the quadrant, and then the other dice was how far it went. So you have to understand that hitting with artillery was difficult. It was not an easy prospect. Some artillery were better than others. But my dad played a faction called Highlanders. And Highlanders were a pretty average faction overall, but their one claim to fame is at the time they had these absolutely batshit insane artillery called Thumpers. Thumpers were not overly great. Honestly, they weren't. They were really difficult to hit with, but when they hit, ouch. So with artillery, you don't roll dice to see if you hit. So all the other things, say I've got a mech shooting another mech. So my mech has an accuracy rating. Let's say it's 10. Right? So it's 10. Even though that's quite high. Let's say it's 8. And we'll say that the enemy mech has a defense of 20. So when I roll to hit, what I end up doing is I roll my 3 dice, I add them together, I add my 8, and if it's over 20, I've hit. I feel like it had to be over in MechWarrior. Equal just didn't hit. You had to surpass their defense, basically. So artillery didn't have to make that jump. Artillery, if the token landed on an enemy and they had sort of rules how it worked, basically it was based on the base. If you had more than 50% of the artillery token hanging over the base, the unit took half damage. So Thumpers did 4 clicks of damage. In fact, I may have a mech somewhere around here. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. I know I opened... here we go. Look at this. AIDS. So, I'm just going to make sure that this guy is at full health. Okay, so that's dead. Yep, cool. And I said that's dead. Yeah, alright. So, this is how basically things looked at the start of the game. So you have your clicks. So when you take a heat click, you click it down. Oh, wrong direction. That is overheated. You click it down. And then this is how much of a penalty you get to your damage and movement and stuff like that. So as you can see, and then this is overheated. This is bad. Then we've got this click here. This is your damage. So when you take a click of damage, you click your guy down. So now he's slightly worse. And as it clicks down, you get worse and worse and worse and worse. Now this guy is like, this guy's actually got quite a lot of health. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So this guy's got 16 clicks. That's actually pretty good. So, yeah, I think Thumpers did 6 points of damage, if I remember correctly. So, they hit you and you just get dealt 6 clicks of damage. No, I think it was 4 at this point, because I think most mechs had about 12 clicks of health. Yes, that is correct. If you had a really good mech, they'd have maybe like 14 clicks of health. Mechs got better as the game went along. Shocking, I know, as a concept. So, basically, it was very hard to actually hit anything with artillery. But my dad loved artillery. He was the biggest artillery head ever. I don't know why. I feel like maybe he a reincarnated World War One soldier. I don't know, but he loved them. I never found much use for them because I felt most of the time they just ended up sort of missing a lot. And I felt that taking a tank that could just shoot or taking a mech that could just shoot was a much better prospect than worrying about some freaking shitty artillery maybe hitting sometimes. So, but they dealt a lot of damage. That was the point, and it was pretty much free damage. But because of this, my dad really did not do well. But he just kept fielding these artilleries. Everyone was like, "Paul, don't field the artilleries." Even though I was like, "Dad, don't field artillery. They're crap." But he was like, "No, I've got this." You couldn't tell him, sadly. At the end of the day, you can't really tell my dad anything. He will do whatever the hell he wants, and damned be the consequences. So Larry's guffaw was because you take, as I said, even though Larry was a cheating piece of shit, he was a good player. So he's probably, with tournaments like where he didn't cheat, he still won probably like 60% of those tournaments. As I said, he's not a bad player by any metric. So, what Larry heard when my dad said, "Let's play a game," he heard the worst player in the club going, "I can take you in a fight." And so, Larry found this extremely amusing. And so he's like, "Alright, Paul, let's play then." So they set up, and because it was just a regular game, Larry, of course, plays his cheating bullshit army of an extra mech. So Larry played Spirit Cats. And from memory, Spirit Cats' sort of special thing that they had is their mechs just had really high defense. Their mechs had higher defense than others. That was it. But see, my dad's artillery didn't give a crap about that kind of stuff. So they start off, Larry moves forward, because Larry won initiative, and he moves forward, and my dad puts the artillery tokens down near his mechs, and Larry once again is like, he's like, "Paul, this is stupid. The artillery aren't going to do anything." So then the next turn starts, and the artillery hits, and it hits every single mech. Boom, straight on top. Boom, 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 boom. 4 points of damage. So already, most of Larry's mechs are on lost a third of their health in one round. He's like, "Oh, okay." But he's like, "Alright, you got your lucky hits in. That's fine." You know, Larry moves his mechs, his tanks, his infantry, which he had 3 squads of good infantry, 2 good tanks, 2 medium mechs and a heavy mech, and my dad had 3 artillery, a squad of crap infantry, and he had 2 medium mechs. I don't know, why didn't anyone call Larry out? Like, this is so stupid. I'm just flabbergasted by the whole entire thing. You know, it's like, Larry was obviously cheating. Why did no adult in the club call him out for his bullshit? Maybe it's because he didn't cheat at tournaments. That's the only thing I can come up with. But anyway, Larry's like, "That's fine. That's all good." So once again, Dad puts his artillery out. The mechs next turn. The mechs will be at loggerheads, and we'll see how we go. Larry's tanks come around the flank with his infantry, and my dad rolls the dice again. And bang, 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 bang. Hits all 3 of Larry's mechs again. Larry is now like, huh? And my dad's like, oh, that was good, wasn't it? So now two of Larry's mechs are very close to death. And the other thing is that once they get damaged, like the more damage you take in this game, the less effective your mechs are. So Larry is now, and Larry's like, oh, he's now incensed, but he's like, I've still got my heavy mech. And to be completely fair, his heavy mech is still really strong even when damaged. And so he goes, that's fine. That was just luck. I've got my tanks, got my infantry, I've still got my heavy mech. Not a problem. So Dad's medium mechs move in, and he gangs up on one of the other mechs. And he manages to deal enough damage to destroy it. So one mech is down. Larry's tanks are heading towards my dad's artillery. And the artillery really can't shoot at them because of the minimum range. And Larry's infantry is menacing my dad's infantry at this point. So what ends up happening is that Dad once again puts artillery down. He puts one on each of the remaining mechs. And he puts one on a squad of infantry because the tanks are... The thumpers had a real crap minimum range as well. So what ended up happening was they were in... The tanks, even though they weren't in range to shoot, they were in the minimum range by this point. So once again, the turn comes around, and Larry is like, there's no way in hell you're hitting all three of these again. He hits all three of them again. So the other medium mech is scrapped, basically. It's dead, it gets blown up by artillery. Larry's heavy mech is crippled beyond belief at this point. It's on death's door, and then the way that infantry works is they come in like squads of three, but it's three bases. Kind of like Warhammer infantry almost. So the artillery marker falls in between two of them, but covers 50% of both of them. So they both get hit, blown up. One squad of infantry is basically dead. And then my dad comes in, wraps up the other squad of infantry with his squad, destroys Larry's heavy mech with one of his mediums, and moves his medium mech over towards Larry's tanks, which had shot at my dad's artillery, but had not actually had not actually hit them. They failed to hit them. And the medium mech then severely cripples a tank. And Larry is now like, no! No, 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 no. Like, he's not in my dad's face, but he's just saying no over and over and over and over again. No, 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 no. And my dad says to Larry, he's like, hey, look, it's just luck, mate, which, just for the record, trying to get Larry to act like an adult when he's in the middle of a temper tantrum was the worst thing you could possibly do in that particular scenario. Larry wanted to have his meltdown. He didn't want to be told, hey mate, maybe you should be adult about the situation. You know, it's just luck. And also, my dad just didn't win. He didn't beat Larry consistently. Most of the time, what would end up happening is that he'd get maybe 2 artillery hits the whole entire game, and then he'd just get rolled. And a lot of the time, they weren't mechs he hit either. So it was just the perfect storm. My dad got very lucky, and Larry got very unlucky. And Larry threw a huge temper tantrum of, no, 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 no. Like, I swear he said no like 50 times in a row. Like, everyone in the general vicinity is looking at him now because he's screaming his guts out, basically. He's like, you can't beat me. You're not allowed to beat me, Paul. You're crap. You're a terrible player. You can't beat me. That's not right. your strategy is terrible. Which, you know, in Larry's defense in this particular scenario, he wasn't wrong. My dad's strategy was terrible. But, you know, he could have been a bit less insane about it. Well, I mean, Larry. But he's off the deep end now. And as I said, this is his first game for the night. He got in late. He got completely goddamn shanghaied by my dad. And you don't want to know what the funniest part about the whole story is, guys? That was Larry's worst defeat. Generally, even when you beat Larry in a tournament or something like that, it'd be a close game. You know, the winner would leave with a half-dead mech by the end of the game, or maybe like two infantry members. You didn't win against Larry soundly, generally. So not only did my dad give Larry the worst defeat he'd ever suffered, and I think even at the end of the day, the worst defeat he still had suffered when I knew him. But he was also considered by basically everyone to be the worst MechWarrior player at the table. So Larry just couldn't deal with it. Not only did he get his shit kicked in, which just didn't happen, he got his shit kicked in by the worst player ever. And so, yeah, Larry just really, really, really did not cope with the situation well. He had a full-on meltdown. My dad, I don't think he ever had a finer hour than that particular one. And the game was short, too. It was not a long game. Larry got completely rolled by the end of it. He did eventually play out the rest of the game after he had his temper tantrum and Greg apologized to everyone. He came back and he played the game. Mind you, he did not play the game in a way where you'd be like, oh, yeah. He pretty much ended up playing the game where it was like, whatever, you sure, here, move in. Well, he just was a bad sport about it. So he came back to play, but he wouldn't give anyone the time of day. And not to mention, he was shitty for the rest of the night too. he did not handle his loss gracefully. I'll put it that way. He just ended up being like, someone talked to him. Oh, whatever. I don't think. I'm trying to remember if he actually ended up playing another game that night. I think he did, but I think he was really bitter for like the whole entire time. He's just like, whatever. It doesn't matter what I do in this game. Yeah, I remember overhearing him say that to someone. He's just like, it doesn't matter what I do in this game. It's fucking terrible. So yeah, Larry's second story. He was a dick. As I said, I understand sort of not being overly happy when you lose, but to me, even if you don't like the fact that you lost, you shake your opponent's hand and you move on. You don't like act like a complete dickbag. And if you do feel like you're going to be a dickbag about certain things, what you do is you wait until you get home and you be a dickbag at home about it, right? Not in front of club members, younger players, particularly because if they see a 30-year-old man going apeshit and no one does anything about it, they go, oh, that must just be a wargaming thing, right? Just a thing wargamers do is just go apeshit. But yeah, so Larry actually eventually did seem to get his temper under control at some point. By the time the other wargaming club started, he seemed to have a bit more control. And if you're wondering, didn't you say in the first video that Walker said that if Larry ever did anything like that, he'd be kicked out of the club? Yes, I did say that. And that was still true, but this was in the end phase of that particular club. In fact, about 3 months later, we had the what I call the schism, which is when the wargaming club Walker left because he had some personal things to deal with, which I won't discuss on stream or on the YouTube video. But he had some stuff that needed to get dealt with. And so he had to leave, and he wasn't able to run the wargaming club anymore. Now, what was meant to happen was he'd picked another guy to run the wargaming club, who I can't remember the name of. I'm gonna call him Melvin. We'll call him Melvin. Yeah, that's good. Melvin, on paper, was a good choice. Because Melvin had been sort of semi-running the club anyway. So what happened with Melvin? Well, basically, there were 3 sort of sub leaders in the wargaming club, and Melvin was one of them. And then we had Ian, who was the treasurer, basically, and we had Steve, who at the time was running all the wargaming tournaments. He was also the unofficial sort of leader of the alternate wargaming group. So what ended up happening was Steve wanted to sort of focus on stuff that wasn't Warhammer. He was never a big Warhammer fan. He didn't like Warhammer, and he felt that the club was too Warhammer centric. Like most of the promotional materials in the club and stuff like that were all based around Warhammer. This was not an unfair assessment of the situation, to be completely honest with you. The club was very Warhammer centric, but that being said, at this point, most people were playing Warhammer. Ian, on the other hand, felt like that the wargaming club should focus on the games that were actually bringing people in. So, your Warhammer, your Magic the Gathering, your Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point, he felt like there should be more of a focus on getting these into the spotlight instead. And basically what ended up happening is Melvin just wasn't much of a leader. He couldn't really rally people like Walker had. His organization skills were not great either. So for the first, let's say, 2 months where people... I'd say it was about 6 weeks, actually. The first 6 weeks, he would be showing up late. He wouldn't let Steve or Ian have any keys. And it was just a pain in the ass, basically. And then... So, what ended up happening was... The first thing that happened was Ian and another guy who was like the sort of unofficial Warhammer group sort of leader, which we'll call, let me think, trying to think of a good name for him. I'll call him. I'm trying to think of a decent name for him. I see. The problem is that I really like. He embodied his actual real name. Like, I never met anyone who I was just like, yeah, that guy's name perfectly suits him as a person. So I'm trying to think of another name that sort of captures him. We'll call him Bruce for the time being. I may end up changing his name later. So, Bruce and Ian got together and they were like, we are not happy with the direction that this gaming club is going, so we're gonna make our own. And Melvin was like, well, but you know, we should keep everything centralized. And they're like, yeah, but you're just like, you're not doing anything, and you're late, and you're running shit really badly. And he was like, I'll try and do better. But, you know, no. They were finished with him at this point. And then probably about a week after that, Steve, also then decided, nah, this guy's just not. He's not there. He's not doing stuff. So Steve broke off and made the Alternate Wargaming Club. Now, the problem is that club was on, the first club was on a Friday evening? No, it was on a Saturday evening. So, what ended up happening was Ian's club, because even though he was with Bruce, Ian was really the guy behind it. Gus ran all the tournaments and stuff like that, but Ian ran the club, and Ian would occasionally run tournaments as well. I think I just said Bruce's real name. It doesn't matter. So Bruce would run a lot of stuff, and Ian would run the rest of it. Was basically how it worked. So they decided to make theirs Friday night. So in case anyone, so it went from 5 till late. Ian would sometimes be there till 3-4 in the morning with people playing games. So I mean, you couldn't say that he wasn't dedicated. Actually, I think this house looks pretty nice. Well, you know, nice as a piece of wargaming terrain, not nice as in I'd like to live here. Yeah, so anyway, they made theirs Friday night, and then the membership at the first Wargaming Club dropped off a goddamn cliff. Most people immediately jumped ship to this other one. Some people would still show up, and then once Steve schismed off, he made his on a Saturday at a different hall. So all of them were at different halls, though. So the Alternate Wargaming Club just vanished from that club. So it worked out that there was something like 6 members by the end of it who would show up to the club. So the first Wargaming Club just died in the ass. Once Walker left, it was over. Ooh. Okay. Let's get this one done as well. So yeah, once Walker left, the first club just fell to pieces. There really wasn't much that was done, and no one really even missed it. No one ever said, "Oh man, Club 1, that was where it was at." No, the only time people ever really brought it up for people who were around at the time, because what ended up happening is that we got a whole bunch of new blood in both clubs. The only thing that people really brought up was, man, Walker was such a cool guy. It's a shame that he had to leave, basically. But after a while, that talk also stopped because, I mean, Walker just was forgotten, which is kind of sad. But eventually, no new members really remembered Walker at all. Some of the old members would still be like, "Ah, man, Walker." But for the most part, no new members really ended up remembering him. Generally, it was the funny thing was it was more the alternate wargaming club that sort of remembered him more than anything else. Because the new club we ended up having a lot of turnover, and generally those older club members were the Magic guys, and they, funnily enough, they really didn't do anything with Walker very often. Walker would occasionally play a game of Magic. That was about it. But yeah, so the two clubs came to be, and then eventually, if you watch the next war story, Jake, who was a Warhammer fantasy player and a Magic player, he worked at the local game store, and he asked them if he could open for Games Day, and they were like, yeah, you can use the space, but we're not paying you. But if you sell anything, you can get commission, and that's basically how he ran the Wargaming Club. He didn't get paid. He got to use the space, and he got commission on anything he sold. I think he's also liable for anything that got stolen. But generally, he had this system. So you'd show up, at the front of the gaming store, and he would unlock the door and let you in. And then once he'd let everyone in, he'd lock the door. And then if you were like, oh, I want to go out and get a drink or get something to eat, he would then unlock the door and let you out. So pretty much it was like extra security. You had to come in, and if you were to buy something on that day, you sort of, it wasn't often that he sold stuff, but it was handy because sometimes you might be like, oh, I need to buy blah, and so you could just buy the box off the shelf. This was before we had a Warhammer store too, so I'm not sure if I feel like Jake may have actually ran a Warhammer store in Melbourne for a while, actually, or at least to help out in one. Because I believe there was a Warhammer store in Melbourne at this point, but there was not one where I was. In my sort of not exactly a city, but not really a town either area. And so, it was a bit all over the place, really. But it was a good time. I mean, I got lots of games, guys. I got lots and lots and lots and lots of games. So it was always a positive. It's just a shame that the community just sort of doesn't really exist as much anymore. I've got my theories on why that is, but it's all anecdotal, I'll be completely honest. For me, the times I started noticing the player base starting to drop off and less people showing up at the gaming clubs was any time Games Workshop had raised the price. I mean, as I said, this is anecdotal. Don't come out and be like, Count Fancy said that Games Workshop is the reason why you can't get wargame games anymore. No, that's not exactly what I said. I just said that I noticed that there were less players around. Well, I mean, the Warhammer community when I was playing was probably 60 to 80 people. Like back when I was properly playing. And now it's like maybe 15 people in the area. Like, if you go down to even when the Warhammer store first opened, when 8th edition came out, and lots of people had come back to the hobby to play, there's still only about 12 people playing, like, consistently. You'd go into the Warhammer store, and it'd be the same 12 dudes over and over again. And I just have to say, sorry to those people, but you were not good at the game. I mean, I don't want to be mean, guys, but they weren't. Most people's battle strategy is I walk in a line and hopefully my guys don't die. I just don't find that as an effective battle strategy. You know, I just want people to get better at wargaming, guys. Like, I don't mean like people just need to get better. I mean, I just want to help improve people's wargaming skills, so that I can help them get better. I don't want to just walk over opponents. And I mean, I don't think I'm a tactical genius or anything like that. That's ridiculous. I've just found that for me personally, I just tend to be able to play slightly better than many people. As I said, I don't know if this is some type of just thing that I've run into. I don't know if maybe just the people in my area just aren't very good at war games. I don't know. Maybe, there might be a viewer out there who's like, Vamps, you should come to my area. Everyone is just like a god. I hate playing here. I don't know. Maybe that's true. As I said, I'm happy to play in an area like that. I'm more than happy to. I'm sure there are people out there who are better than me too, just for the record. I mean, I've never played in any, like, Games Workshop sanctioned sort of tournaments either. All my stuff is from local tournaments. So, it's not like I've been playing the best players in the world or anything like that, but I have got a very good win-loss record with Warhammer. I mean, not that my Warhammer 40k win-loss record isn't fantastic. It's probably like maybe 60%, 60-70% win ratio, which is still good. I mean, that's not bad, but it's not perfect either. My Warhammer Fantasy one, on the other hand, which I talk about in my video, you'll have to watch the video to find that one out. Should be coming out, hopefully maybe by the end of the weekend. I don't know. We'll see how we're going. Probably Monday at this point, actually, again. Oh, that just didn't work out well. There we go. That's a bit better. Get that nice and sort of painted on. Man, I will say, Lego does not like getting painted. At least not without getting primed first. That's alright. That'll be fine. Let's have a sticky beak here now. Now that we've given this time to sort of have a bit of a dry. God. I think I need to use a bigger. Take this off. Need to use a bigger base handle, I think. Oh. And on we go. Just gonna get that color a bit more on. Oh, so upcoming review, by the way, guys. A Song of Fire and Ice. I'm not sure when that's gonna be, but it's gonna happen. I've had a quick sticky beak at the rules. Thank you, Dan Adams, for getting me. Dan Adams, sorry, for getting me on that one. I'm gonna have a proper sticky beak at it, so this should be fun. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking something, guys. Just checking a couple things. I'm just having a look. Just doing a bit of just checking something with the stream. I've really got to change the bit rate. Actually, $680. Might as well do it now while I'm sort of thinking about it. Stream, is it? Bit rate? General. I'll just keep that open there. So, 68. We'll see how we go on that one. The bit rates are always changing. It's based on a freaking website as well. So, okay. A bit of a metal building going on here, but that's alright. Okay, let's have a sticky beak here. So, what we're going to do is that I'm going to sort of, now that we've got a bit more of a sort of idea, going to throw that piece away. Okay, so I'm going to stick this bit back on. Yep. And this is going to give me an idea on what sort of color palette I want to do on sort of each area. Because I'm just going to sort of try and, you know, make it pop these two bits back on. Okay, this one is going to be a bit interesting. Whoop. Okay, let's have a look at what we're sort of working with here. Okay, no, never mind. For some reason, my camera anchor is going really crazy, like on my stand. So here we go. We've got our thing. So I reckon what I'll do is I'll probably leave this pink because I think the sticker's pink. We'll leave this yellow. Yeah. So I reckon what I'll do is these little pink bits I might sort of do as a slightly different thing. White is fine here. That's not a problem. This blue, I'll probably just paint the whole entire thing like a pretty close blue. This is why I should have stuck the stickers on second. Then we'll just dirty up most of this stuff. I'll sort of maybe give the walls a sort of bit of a paint. I think we might make these like maybe gold or brass or something along the lines of that. And then we'll just sort of, yeah, just give it a nice little go over. Alright. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so I'm trying to think of, do I want to just maybe make these walls a certain color? Maybe I'll try and match this sort of yellow. Possibly. Let's start with the blue. I think I got a nice little blue here. I'll pop some blue out. Nice. And let's get a bit of blue. Let's get a bit of this blue going. Ooh. So we'll just go along here. If you're wondering why the hell did I paint this whole entire thing metal, I don't know which areas I'm gonna end up painting. I'm just gonna sort of roll with it. Just gonna roll with it, and then we're just gonna see how it ends up looking by the end of it. I don't actually mind this blue too much. This is not too bad. It's all a learning process, you know. Next time I know to stick the stickers on after I paint the whole entire thing. But you know what do you do, guys? You just sort of muddle your way through and hope for the best, basically. Okay, I'm trying to think what. I think maybe if I go for that sort of like the light greenish color, like a pastel green. Now, how would one get to pastel green? Well, let's take this blue, right? Let's take this blue, and we'll add it to a bit of yellow, and I'll see if I can sort of get a bit of a sort of pastel-y sort of green to match the rest of it. So we'll take this, and we'll take this, and I'll just mix them. Give them a good old mix right in the middle. Alright, bit more blue, bit more blue. Let's see how this looks if I put it on here. Maybe. I'm gonna need to see a bit more. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is I wanna punch this up a bit more, but I'm actually happy with this as a base color. I'm gonna take these off. We'll put them back on later. If you know what, I don't mind this. Yeah, that. I've got quite a bit of it too, so that's nice. Yeah, I like that actually. I like that as a sort of as the color. At first I was like, maybe not, but I think it'll be fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add like a slightly brighter green into this, just to get that sort of highlight layer I'm looking for. But it's actually, weirdly enough, because when I first mixed it, I was like, this doesn't look overly pastel. But now that I've had some time to sort of get it painted on, it looks very pastel. Like, it looks like a very muted pastel, yes, but... Okay, the question is do I want to do... I think I might do that as sort of like a trying to decide if I want to go pastel all the way up to the rim here, or if I... Yeah, actually, I think I do on this particular one, just here. But I'm not going to go any higher than this. Because sadly, because I wasn't smart and did it before the stickers, I'm sort of stuck to these particular sort of esque colours. But, you know, as I said, you learn and you paint. Well, let's pop this out of the way. Yeah, alright, I'll paint this bit though. I'm not really overly concerned if I, you know, slip or whatever. because you know it's Gaslands, baby. Next stream, I think I'll probably finally bite the bullet and paint some of these battle creatures, which are they're Pokemon. Yeah, this is what it looks like. It's a Venusaur. I think I'll actually finally get around to painting some of them just for the fun. You know, also by that point, I should have finished off my Gaslands review, which means while I still will be painting Gaslands as I'm going, I think the thing is that I'm not really going to be super actively painting Gaslands, because obviously right now I need to paint Gaslands for the review, and they need to be ready for the review. See, we got a bit of that green going. That's quite nice. I'm not sure what I'm going to do the base in colours. Alright, well, I'm at least happy with the base colour of that particular one. And I'm just going to hit the blue again, just to sort of, you know, make it so that we got a bit more coverage here. As the paint brand says, 2 thin coats, which is exactly what we're going to be doing. And listen, I don't really mind if the paint doesn't look fantastic on these, because, you know, the thing is that it's meant to be post-apocalyptic. It's meant to look kind of crap. So if there's any paint that hasn't been covered, at the end of the day, you just go, well, that's just how it worked. You just go, kiss my ass, good sir. I really don't have much in the way of pastel pink. That's a little annoying, actually. Maybe this one might be the best I got. I think the problem is that it's not really that pastel. Oh, excuse me, lid. Maybe if I take a little bit of this blue, like just a touch, the tiniest touch of this blue, and just mix it with this pink, maybe I can get like a sort of I know it'll end up being a bit more purple, but maybe I might be able to sort of end up getting, you know, a bit of a sort of interesting color. So let's take this pink and we'll just spread it, and then I'll take a bit of this blue and we'll just sort of mix this blue in. Yeah, I've got like a sort of pastel-y sort of purple color now. That's something though. That's a step in the right direction. I just need to add a bit more pink, I think. A bit more pink. Don't know what that was. Never made that noise from my mouth ever. First time. Yeah, that's a bit better. That's a bit better. Still a bit on the purple side, but I think it's gonna work. Yeah, there's really not much I can do about that sign. It had the stick. I mean, I guess I could probably carefully paint around this particular area. Sorry, guys. This I need very fine brush control on this this section. Okay, that one's done. Then I'm just gonna do these little areas up here. I think I'll probably just keep this section the same color, I reckon. I'll just you know, dirty it up. Oh, painted my webcam. First paint casualty on the webcam. Probably can't really see what I'm doing up here. Yeah, I think that looks pretty decent. And then I'm going to hit these areas with a bit of pink too. Just because I think it's going to stand out a bit more. Okay. Now I've decided I'm going to do the roof and the side bit. Actually, the side bit I think I've already decided. And what I'll do is I'll do this ladder sort of section, pink. And we'll do the rest of it. Like we'll do the little handle. I think we might do blue. Well, I might do blue just to sort of punch in the mic again. Once again, mic violence. Violence against mics. Australia says no, guys. Okay. Well, actually, now it might be a little too high. So, we're getting the pink on here. Everything's probably going to need a couple of layers, just because that's just how paint generally works. Oh. Well, guys, we've had a nice little sort of chill stream today, haven't we? Just sitting there getting the paint on. Nice and chill. And I'm just going to hit this little angle with... Pink's always not going to go on like super duper fantastic, like... That's just how it's going to be. You're always going to need a couple layers of pink. But that's alright. You're always going to need a couple layers of pretty much every paint you use. And also, we know with Gaslands, the positive thing is that if the paint looks a bit off, not a problem. You continue on with life. Because once you cover everything in crap, it'll look fine. So yeah, just remember, guys. If you make mistakes or whatever, you can paint over them, or a lot of the time they won't be as bad as you think they are. That's probably the biggest thing I can say, is that painting mistakes generally aren't as bad as you think they are. There are some exceptions, of course, though. If you paint a Space Marine's head completely white and don't put any other colour on it, he might end up looking a bit off. But generally, little niggly things, most of the time, people aren't even going to notice them. Because you got to remember that most of the time, people are going to be looking at them from they're going to be on a table. They're going to be the person's going to be standing. So you got to remember that most of the time, people aren't going to be looking directly at your miniatures on an angle that it's going to be like, oh my god. I remember I once had an argument with a guy over certain areas of the miniature. He would do this thing. He would ask to look at your miniature, and you'd be like, yeah, sure, no worries, that's fine, I don't mind. And then he would pick it up, and he'd look at it like this, for example. He'd pick it up and go, looking at it from underneath the base. And he'd be like, oh, you missed a spot. And you'd be like, yeah, I know I missed a spot. But, I didn't think anyone would really pick them up and look at them underneath there. And he's like, you've always got to paint them because someone might. I'm going to be completely honest. I had that happen to me exactly once by the guy who told me that people may do it. I never once had anyone else pick up a miniature and look at the bottom of the miniature. Not once in my 20 years of wargaming, guys, have I had another person come up and pick up a miniature and look at it from underneath. So don't worry too much about people doing that, because it just doesn't happen very often. Not looking too bad. Not too bad at all, in fact. In fact, one might say it's looking very good. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I go quite that far. We're just gonna green up this base a little, this sort of base color a little bit more. I think I'll make the counter blue as well, I reckon. No, this part here. Still don't know quite what I might do the outsides as. We'll work it out as we go. I know how to make all the colours that I use, so that's not a problem. Also, if they're a little bit off, they're a little bit off. Whatever. This is why I won't be a golden demon painter, guys. Is because I'm just a bit too blasé. I see what I like in my head and I paint it, and if that turns out to be a good paint job, awesome. But, most of the time I just try and make them look decent. And honestly, that's all you can really ask, guys, is just making them look decent. Yeah, so after I do my Gaslands review, my next review is going to be Battletech, just for the record. That's the plan. I want to do Battletech, and then I think we might look at Mantic's Firefight after that. I'm looking forward to sort of getting that one a bit in place. And then I think we might look at A Song of Fire and Ice. Meanwhile, in my retro review section, which I'll also be doing, the retro reviews will not be as sort of... they're going to be quick. The retro reviews will be pretty quick. The full reviews, of course, will be full reviews. But the retro reviews will just be little sort of maybe 15, 20-minute videos just going over how to play the game. More like a collection of thoughts and just sort of explaining sort of how the game plays, I think, will be retro reviews. And so far, my retro reviews that I've sort of got on deck are MechWarrior the Dark Age, Pirates, which will be the first one, and I'm thinking I'll maybe go over Warhammer Fantasy 6th edition, which was my favourite edition of Warhammer. Oh, excuse me. And I'll just sort of roll from there, I think. Well, anyway, guys, I think that's it for me for today. I feel like we got some good terrain painted up, and they're looking decent. And really, I just think that, yeah, well, you may as well take the win while we can get it. Yeah, these pieces of terrain that you've seen will be making an appearance in the review of Gaslands. So basically my review will be sort of in three sort of parts. So I'll have an intro, that's not a part. Then I'm going to cover the setting of whatever game I'm playing. So I think that's important. Then we're going to cover the rules, which will be not super in depth. We'll just be covering the rules in a general sense. You know, with my more modern reviews, if you want to play the game, go buy the game. You know, I'm just priming you for the rules. And then finally, gameplay will be the last section. And that will be sort of talking about how the game feels when you play it. Not so much the rules, because I know rules and gameplay sort of... But something on paper, rules-wise, might not work in practice. So that's the idea behind it. And then, well, of course, there'll be the finishing up. And I'll probably talk about, if we play a campaign for the particular game I'm talking about, I'll probably sort of do a quick wrap-up of how the campaign went in the gameplay section, so that people can get an idea on how the game sort of runs. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. You have a good one, and I'll catch